You shouldn't be treating your mother this way, he chastised. Mr. O'Dillon's disapproving demeanor towards the young rebel was evident. The retired guy would embark on a lengthy journey full with obstacles and learnings as he took on the duty of carer for that crippled youngster. Lost in reminiscence, Mr. O'Dillon strolled the park's pathways that fall afternoon. His every stride seemed to bring back the joyful recollections of what had transpired there. O'Dillon's thoughts took him back to a time when he was youthful and active, with that location serving as the backdrop for his most treasured recollections. He saw himself again, holding hands with his late wife, love and youth shining in their eyes. They had exchanged their first kiss there, in the same park. Additionally, it was there that he knelt with a ring in his hand and proposed a plan that would alter their lives forever. She gladly accepted the offer. The park brought back memories of those carefree days when they were young idealists who daydreamed of having children to complete their pleasure while perched on the worn-out benches. And as the years went by, the same nooks where children had previously dreamed became to fill with laughter as those dreams came true. And now there was Mr. O'Dillon, remembering all those times as the park was illuminated by the last of the setting sun's golden beams. The years had flown by, reminiscent of the pages of a well-worn tome. His spouse, the traveling partner he had known since his dazzling youth, was now only a fond memory. The kids who used to run around the fields and make the whole family laugh had grown up to be responsible, self-sufficient adults. And even with this abundance of joyous recollections, experienced O'Dillon also held a hurt that would not go away. A portion of his heart had been torn by an unexpected and early demise. Through time, O'Dillon had come to grasp death's inevitability in a way that was all his own. According to him, death was everyone's quiet companion and an inescapable shadow of life. He was devastated by grief when his life partner, his wife, passed away. However, he took solace in the recollections of a life full with treasured experiences. But even with this understanding, the memory of a recent death continued to reverberate in his heart with a force he could hardly handle. His cherished grandson, a kid who had just been alive for 8 years, had died suddenly. The event that claimed his grandson's life was a recent wound, a permanent reminder of the injustice in the world. He could still clearly recall the scene of the inebriated driver onto the sidewalk and transforming an ordinary moment into a horrific accident. O'Dillon pondered what it would have been like to watch his grandchild grow up as he sat on the aged wooden seat and watched life play out in front of him. Simultaneously, Simone, at the opposite end of the park, maneuvered her wheelchair carefully along the route while pushing her son Jules. That afternoon, the industrious businesswoman had to abandon her professional responsibilities and head back home. She had chosen to resign from her role as Jules's carer once more. For both mother and kid, going to the park had become a way to release steam and diffuse tensions. A number of carers had quit in the last few months as a result of Jules's troubling behavior. Due to his actions of disdain and defiance, these carers had fled, leaving Simone to juggle being a mother, carer, and provider. Even though Jules was only 10 years old, he bore the burden of a difficult life. An early trial had marked the start of his journey. He contracted the terrible polio as a newborn, which left his legs permanently paralyzed. Jules's peculiarity became more apparent as he grew older. He felt a great deal of hatred towards other kids since he was confined to a wheelchair and could not play with them. Jules already bore a heavy load, but the recent separation of his parents made it more heavier. His behavior began to deteriorate due to the growing gap between him and his father, with whom he had previously enjoyed a tight relationship. His father was a man he looked to for direction and comfort, so when he was gone, there was a gap that left him feeling confused and angry. The boy's behavior became more and more challenging as a result of everything. Jules used every act of disrespect and defiance as a painful coping mechanism for the complicated and contradictory feelings that overcame him. That day, the park was getting ready to host an encounter that would change Jules's life and the old O'Dillons as well. Lost in her world of duty, Simone maneuvered Jules's wheelchair with care down the park paths. There was a phone call that was urgent and could not be ignored when it broke through the silence. She pulled the wheelchair to a stop beside Mr. O'Dillon's seat. Jules complained, voicing his annoyance at constantly seeing his mother so preoccupied, as Simone answered the phone. Simone moved aside to have a private phone conversation with the youngster because of his restlessness. Jules, seated in his wheelchair, voiced his displeasure while Simone was deep in her phone call. Odilon, who was seated on the bench beside them, watched this situation play out with a mix of curiosity and unease. Before Odilon eventually shattered the imperceptible barrier between them, silence hung for a time. "You need not to talk to your mother in such manner. It's not about how decent people act," he remarked, his voice resonating with life experience. His eyes met Jules's with a hard yet gentle glance. The child was not hiding how annoyed he was to be reprimanded by this inquisitive stranger. "You don't know our life," the boy shot back, his tone laced with disdain. The boy's reply, for his part, did not deter the seasoned gentleman. He answered, "There are principles of respect and honor that transcend situations," with a calmness that belied his years of experience. His comments were firm and wise. His serene expression made it clear that these were not only meaningless sermons, but rather a deep introspection on his own life experiences and philosophy. When Simone did eventually hang up, she turned to face her son and saw that he was talking to Mr. Odilon. As she watched Odilon, a memory of an old acquaintance of her father's that she hadn't seen since she was a child flashed into her head. "Mr. Odilon, is this someone you know?" She added with a mix of surprise and affection, "My name is Simone, and I'm the daughter of your old buddy." The young woman identified herself as Simone, the friend of an old acquaintance, and Odilon's eyes lit up with recognition. While Simone and Odilon conversed, the two had a brief conversation, but Jules's discontent with the elderly man persisted. He watched his mother talking to this man he thought was intrusive, with a mixture of confusion and annoyance. She described how challenging it was to find someone to look after Jules, someone who could drive him to school and help him with his assignments while she was at work. Touched by a sincere wish to assist, he took an unexpected action. He promised to look for Jules while Simone sought a longer-term fix. Jules felt a wave of rage at the instant this offer was made. He thought of the man who had admonished him minutes before as being too involved in his life, but now he offered to play a major part in his daily care. Having spent many years getting to know Odilon and his family, Simone gratefully accepted the kind offer. The old man became increasingly frustrated with Mr. Odilon's interactions with Jules in the days that followed. Odilon was demoralized and felt helpless by Jules's apparent determination to disregard him altogether. Though he made great efforts to help Jules, including driving him to and from school, going with him to physical therapy appointments, and helping him with his homework, the child appeared aloof and unreceptive to any kind of interaction. Jules saw something strange one day when he was buried in meditation. There stood Odilon, intently cutting, folding, and sticking colorful paper to wooden sticks. "What is this?" Curious, Jules asked. With a smile full of nostalgia, Odilon turned to face the boy. "This is a kite, young man. When I used to take my grandson kite flying, he used to adore it. Could you take your grandchild and myself kite flying together?" Jules spoke, her words hanging in the air, a hint of want, a hint of curiosity. Odilon's eyes started to flood up with tears at that very moment. His thoughts was filled with recollections of his late grandchild, memories so vivid and real that they took him back in time to a far-off place. "I'm sorry, did I say something wrong?" With anxiety in his voice, Jules spoke a whisper. "No, not at all. Young man, you said nothing incorrect. What if we go fly this kite in the park right now?" A pivotal moment in the lives of these two wounded souls was shared by Odilon and Jules at the park, beneath the expansive sky above them. It was as though Odilon was reliving the priceless moments he shared with his grandson, being able to impart his wisdom and experiences to a young audience once more. The memories that had kept him going for so long seemed to reverberate distantly through Jules' presence, his inquiries, and his inquisitive smile. Jules was getting the love and care he had always wanted, and for the first time he was able to genuinely feel seen and appreciated. The thrill of grasping the kite string and sensing the wind's force propelling it across the sky seemed to overpower the physical constraints that typically held him back. A pair of hurt individuals, bearing their own burden of psychological wounds, discovered a solace and a haven for their suffering in one another. Jules's once rebellious heart was gradually won over by O'Dillon's warmth and storytelling. The youngster who used to put up his defense walls discovered a place for the stories of prior encounters and the lessons that were imparted. Between the cadence of these discussions and the calm companionship of O'Dillon, Jules started to reevaluate a lot of things. The counsel he had previously rejected suddenly resonated with him. O'Dillon told Jules the tragic tale of his grandson's early death. He gave an explanation of why Jules's physical limitations shouldn't prevent her from appreciating the gift of life. The boy's heart was deeply touched by these remarks, which were imbued with knowledge amassed over the years. Not even Jules's medical professionals were unaware of the behavioral shift in their patient. The youngster worked harder at his treatments and therapy. O'Dillon was deeply satisfied with the chance to assume the position of a grandfather. His conversations with Jules brought back memories of a period of his life that he had assumed had been forgotten along with his grandchild. It was as if a bright light had entered his life, the opportunity to make fresh memories with the small child. O'Dillon and Jules' strange bond also taught a valuable lesson. Allowing connections that appear strange at first to enter your life can help you heal deep scars. Bonds that go beyond loneliness and isolation can be formed by the process of sharing experiences and empathizing with one another's suffering. O'Dillon consented to take care of Jules during his entire childhood at his request. Jules matured and gained independence over the years, but his relationship with Mr. O'Dillon remained strong. Now that the old acquaintance was older, Jules took on a different role. His wheelchair was nestled next to O'Dillon's bed, gripping his hand with tenderness. Jules was telling his own story now. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you liked it.